Hey, this next interview that you're going to watch right now is with me and David Nix. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. David Nix is this very senior engineer who is now making the move to indie hacking. And I think he has struck a vein of gold recently with YourNextDomain.com, which is a product that I personally use and I love, to be honest. I use it daily to find like domain deals. I'm kind of a domain addict, so to say. The thing is, it's very interesting for me to watch this transition that David is actively doing right now from a very senior, very good, and very knowledgeable engineer into an indie hacker. And I'm very curious to see how he will handle the monetization part of your next domain. Building what he has built here is not easy. It actually requires quite some knowledge about how to index data, how to scrape data, how to store it efficiently, and so on and so forth, which he obviously has that type of knowledge. And as I said earlier, I think he has struck a gold vein. I think there is a lot of value in this product. I honestly would have probably paid some 10, $20 a month for even what he has right now, but I can't convince him to charge you guys. So you're still getting this for free. But he is working on some cool new features, which we talked about in the interview. And hopefully, you're going to see him over the next 6 months build this into a profitable product. Have fun watching. So let's go straight into it. I wanted to ask you how, like, you're obviously a guy who has a lot of experience in the field of software engineering and in Go. When did you start
Yep.
coding? How did that happen?
Well, I started coding. I worked for a very small medical office, so the company was like 5 people, and I was really the hired to be the office manager.
Oh, wow.
And what was unique about this medical office was, and it was just like a primary care practice,
Okay.
so they would see patients from, and it was a concierge practice, so they primarily just took care of rich patients, to be honest. Because you have to pay this pretty big yearly fee to be part of the practice. But the entire office was Mac, Apple based, which was is really weird, especially in medical because it's predominantly Microsoft, right? But
Especially back then, I guess.
yeah, yeah. But I was technically my title was office manager, and this was back in the 2000s. And funny enough, I was also tasked with taking care of the computers, so kind of like IT office manager person. And funny enough, I discovered AppleScript of all things. And if you don't know what that is, it's a very English like language to automate stuff on Macs. And that was my first programming language was AppleScript. So just doing things like automatically moving files around, and gosh, I can't exactly remember. But once I that sort of opened my eyes because I'm not I didn't have a computer science degree. I'm 100% self-taught, and just through experience and through my career, I've been lucky to work with people and pair with people who are much more experienced, and I learn from them. But back in this medical office, as soon as I saw, like I can automate this stuff and it saves me a whole bunch of boring, tedious work. This is pretty cool. And it opened my eyes to kind of the power
Yeah.
of software engineering, even though I was doing very basic, like sysadmin stuff. And around that time, I was living with a great uncle who was big into Ruby. And then it was about 2005 that I think Ruby on Rails
Yeah. We're starting.
got huge. Yeah. And he's like, "Hey, you should learn Ruby. It's really great. It's a really easy language to learn." And so from AppleScript, I taught myself Ruby just based on his advice. And from there, I was hooked. I'm like, oh my God. And I bought, a whole bunch of books on like object oriented programming and all these basic computer science skills I didn't have. And the third sort of pillar to this was since we were Apple based, the iPhone I think this was about 2007 or 8.
Oh
So
yeah.
the iPhone 3G came out with the App Store, and the doctors were wanting like an app where they could view patient information on the go. And
Oh,
so then I also, in addition to Ruby and Ruby on Rails, I got into iOS and Objective C programming. And I even remember I took like a week off in the summer, and all I did was read this like giant Objective C book.
wow,
um,
that's crazy.
so it was kind of a very fortuitous, serendipitous, just conglomeration of events that
Yeah,
got me into it. I was just immediately hooked.
I definitely know that feeling when you realize, oh wow, this thing it could actually abstract all this work away from me, and it could like
Yeah,
this is so valuable because I also kind of had a few stints where I tried programming and then I quit, and I tried it and then I quit, and one of them
yeah,
in particular back in 2017. I was moving to the UK to my aunt who lived there and wanted to try to find a job. And also, my whole plan was I'm not going to live in the UK. The UK sucks because it's rainy. I'm going to eventually come back home, but I want to come back home with some money. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to go work a normal job, and then on the side, I'm going to save money and I'll find things on eBay to flip. But I don't have the time to find and to flip. So, I went and I learned how to build a web scraper for to kind of get average prices for iPhones or like all sorts of other random stuff and figure out when something is under that average price. And I think I've made it with PHP to be honest, but I don't remember. It was interesting, but it was when I also realized, yeah, we could actually automate a bunch of stuff and actually build useful stuff with this.
yeah. And for me, there's also just a really nice feeling when you build something and it helps someone else out. Like there's no greater feeling than having users for your stuff. Like, people are actually getting value out of this. It's making their lives even a little bit easier. Feels good. And
Yeah,
I really like that feeling too.
it's beautiful. I have this piece of like this Solidity contract that I wrote back when I didn't know Solidity, way like 3 years ago or something like that, and it's still used. And I look at it sometimes, and I'm like, wow,
Awesome.
wow. And this is
Yeah, I've never written a smart contract, so that's
oh,
awesome.
like the beauty of smart contracts. I think the Solidity language isn't that beautiful. I think Go is so much nicer in many ways. But the beauty about Solidity smart contracts is that you just pay your gas fees once to deploy it, and now it exists, and anybody can interact. It's not like you have to pay monthly for a server or manage a server. It's just there, and anybody can just
Right.
use it, and that's beautiful to me. It's amazing, really.
That was contracts. That's the greatest invention ETH thought of, I think. Um, we have Ethereum really to thank for that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Yeah, I'm with you that Solidity as a language is. I'm kind of like, why did they write their own VM in language? Like, why not use something existing? And
Don't we?
maybe at that time they didn't really have many great options because Solana is all Rust based, and I think they were super smart to just, hey, we're going to choose this mature, safe language instead of reinvent the wheel.
Makes life a lot easier.
Yeah,
Solidity comes with a lot of its own gotchas and problems, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but
And I've only seen Solidity a little bit, but isn't there inheritance, but also interfaces, and they look kind of the same? I don't know. I can totally see how
yeah, you can actually
there's been some security breaches.
you can actually inherit in interfaces, and it's interesting. And
Yeah,
inherit this whole thing where like the order of how things are overridden, I still don't understand it to this day. And then on top of that, when you inherit something, you are adding to the size, like the actual byte size of your contract, and you have a limit as to how much you can actually put out there. Because when you can optimize, then it's this whole thing. And we have libraries, which I guess could be like, I'm not gonna go into it. Whatever. It's
yeah,
definitely not. I would call it not a mature language personally.
right. And I don't think I answered your first question. So my first foray into programming was AppleScript, Objective C, iOS, and iOS in the early days, and Ruby on Rails. And Ruby on Rails got me my first startup job. So this was the early 2010s, where if you could breathe and you knew how to program, you could find a job, right?
What
Where
a
VC money was just flowing like, you know, like wine and water, or whatever that cliche is.
uh,
So because nowadays I'm not a fan of Ruby on Rails. I prefer a strongly typed compiled language. And Ruby just there's like it's kind of built on you can
yeah,
write the code any way you want,
yeah.
which is cool, and that works for some people. But for me, I'd rather like have one right way to do something.
Me
um,
too.
uh, so in about I think it was around 2012 or 2013, I was working for this startup doing Ruby on Rails and iOS, and I just saw this meetup so I was working at a co-working space because that's about when those were becoming really popular. And in that co-working space, I saw this sign for a Go meetup, and I'm like, huh, I wonder what this is about. I didn't have anything to do that night, and so I just went and attended and ended up meeting, a mentor and good friend of mine, still friends to this day. And they just, for better or worse, that one meetup was the whole reason I'm like, wow, this language Go makes so much more sense than
Yeah,
Ruby.
yeah. Ruby
It's
was,
just what you see is what you get. It's compiled like, man, this is awesome. And so I was really an early adopter to Go about 2013. And I remember trying to push the language on the current company. And they're like, I don't know, it's kind of this new thing. And of course, a few years later, like almost their whole stack was in Go after
Go,
I'd left.
Go is an easy sell nowadays because it's the
Yeah.
stable, boring language. It's backed by many people, great standard libraries. It's very easy to sell it. We used to be a TypeScript shop at Dextrack, and I made it into a Go shop after discovering it myself. And it was an easy sell because it's just a lot of big
Yep.
companies use it and everything. But like back then, 2012, I can't even imagine how hard to sell it must have been.
It's probably the only bet I've made in life that paid off, besides marrying my wife. That was a great bet too. But
That's good enough. That's
yeah,
two good bets, you know?
yeah, I got lucky there. So I'm so because I remember, the package ecosystem just it was very immature, so you had to write a lot of things yourself. Now, luckily, Go gives you that rich standard library, so you can write a lot of things yourself, and that's still even baked into the culture. I would say that you're like, hey, don't reach for third party. Like Python is crazy. It's you need all these third party packages from all over the place to like do one thing. I feel like where it
And
goes like, no, here's like a very rich standard library that's supported by the Go team, and you get a whole lot of bells and whistles to use, which I think is wonderful.
it's really wonderful. And I feel like when I describe me coming from Node and TypeScript and that sort of world, mostly, obviously Solidity and a few other things, but coming into Go, it was like, oh, things just work. I just
Things
compiled.
do just work.
Yeah, and this is binary, and it just you just run it, and it just works. Like importing stuff, it's they don't have to worry about the virtual environment or figuring out what npm
Hmm.
version I have or what Python. It just kind of works. It's amazing, really.
Yeah, that's that. I think people, for better or worse, have Stockholm syndrome with Node.js, with Ruby on Rails and gem files, with Python and pip, and it's like they don't understand how horrific even iOS, like Cocoa Pods, Carthage, managing dependencies there is such a pain. And Go,
Yeah,
it just works, and you upgrade packages, and things just work, and you don't fight. There's nothing worse than fighting dependencies. You're like, I
yeah,
just want to build stuff and make features, fix bugs, like help my users out. And
yeah.
when you have to fight those dependencies, it's just for me it's the worst. It's such a drag.
Yeah, before we migrated like from the Dextract from the TypeScript stuff that we use with Next.js and with all of that to just using Go, it was just hell because I like this new library came out. Now we have to use this because it's so much better than the shit we're using. And now Next.js is changing everything, and I don't want to change my whole like folder structure and my whole
Yeah.
file. I want to leave them as they are and just let them work. But I guess I have to do that. I didn't do that. I just migrated because fuck all that. Not to mention the fact
Yeah.
that you don't even have like stuff like cron jobs. It, yeah,
Yeah. It's that sort of migration work. You really have to question, like, what is the value here and how does this even help anybody?
yeah,
um, and in the Go ecosystem, there aren't really there are people have written third party frameworks, but they take Unix philosophy to the extreme, which I think is great. Now that may not be what some people want, but the fact that you don't have these heavy frameworks you have to worry about or frameworks you have to migrate to is just, to me, it's absolutely wonderful. So when I upgrade things or when I extend something, it's really straightforward and usually fast. Upgrading the Go version is like a 10-15 minute job. And I have PTSD from upgrading the Ruby version. It could take weeks to get that right. And this was Swift in the early days, but I remember going from Swift 2 to 3 or 1 to 2, I can't remember exactly, but it took me like 2 weeks of just doing that upgrade
oh my
to
god.
get everything right. I
What
think
would
Swift is more stable now, but in the early days it was not.
Yeah, lot of languages. I don't like trying early stage stuff like Odin or Zig. I'm sure they're great. I'm not interested in early stuff because I just know if I judge it now, I'm gonna not judge it well. It's gonna be a lot better in 5 years, and my view of it will
Right.
be needed.
I feel the same way, uh, because Zig looks really interesting, but I'm like, man, it's just so immature. There's not going to be enough third
Yeah.
party package support. Um, but it looks really cool, really interesting, like a neat blend of Rust and Go, I think.
Well, interesting way to put it. I haven't actually looked too deeply into it, so I couldn't say, but that's an interesting way to put it. I don't particularly like Rust. I think it's like I think Go spoiled me. People say that Go, and I wanted to ask you about your opinion on this. People say that Go is very verbose and it's very boring to write, and it kills you inside, and all these things, which I don't agree with. I like that it's boring. I want my
I do
interesting
too.
I want the interesting part to come out of the domain, not the code, the syntax. I like the boringness of it. What do you think?
I think it is boring, and I love it because I really want it. I really think Go is fun to write,
Oh yeah,
and I think you're touching on there are many types of developers out there. There's developers like you and I, Alex, that I think we like building the thing and shipping it
yeah,
more than the actual process of writing code.
yeah.
Is does that Yeah.
It's
I
vice
mean, I
versa.
still like to write code, but writing code for the sake of code is horrible to me. No, I want to ship something, see
Yeah,
something working as quickly as I can.
me too.
And Go allows you to do that without getting in your way much, and it gives you all these wonderful tools and patterns. Like, I love Go's concurrency, the Go
Yeah.
routines, the CSP pattern. Um, it really lets you write like fast performance stuff in a quick manner as well.
It's
But I
also
think there are some other developers. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think there are other developers, and I'm thinking of like people that love Haskell, kind of that same breed probably love Rust, where they really like something super expressive that
Yeah,
they can write, and they love to be in the code more than in the shipping. And that's not to say they don't like to ship stuff, but I don't think there's a right or wrong way. It's just there's a right way for you and a right way for me.
no.
Because I'm
I think
with you. I attempted Rust. Rust is one of those things, kind of like in the early days of programming, where you try it out, it beats you up, you leave, you come back, it beats you up a little bit less. You're still beat up, so you leave and you come back and you're finally like, okay, I can roll with the punches and Rust learning curve is just crazy steep.
Yeah.
That's my big complaint.
The one thing I did like about Rust, and I only tried it for a weekend because some person tried to sell it to me at a crypto conference, and they were
It's
so
big in crypto.
oh yeah, they were so convinced that I should try it that I was like, okay, I mean, fine, I'll try it. And I liked about it that the compiler checks your SQL against the actual database. I like that so much.
Oh, with
That's
SQL X, that
yeah,
is
that's
cool.
so amazing. That is so cool.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
one.
Rust has some really nice benefits and features about it. Um, like if you the borrow checker, once you kind of wrap your head around it, it's so cool that I cannot write a race condition at like the compiler will prevent you from doing that.
Yeah,
Whereas with Go, it's pretty easy to shoot yourself in the foot with
mm,
concurrency.
yeah,
But
yeah.
once you sort of understand the rules, it's like okay, I think concurrent Go is much quicker and easier to write than Rust. But Rust concurrency, you're guaranteed it's going to be safe,
Go in
pretty
general.
much guaranteed.
Go in general is just pretty. I really don't get the people that say it's repetitive. I mean, it is repetitive, but it's not slow to write. It might be verbose, but Go you
No,
can write it very quickly, especially with the level of autocomplete and AI we have today. It's just so easy to write all the boilerplate that comes with Go.
yeah, it definitely can be more boilerplatey than Rust. For example, Rust has macros which sort of hide the boilerplate. But I've seen some like in crypto actually in a cryptocurrency code base. I've seen some horrifically over-engineered Rust where you're like, I have no idea what's going on. um,
Yeah,
it go. I feel even though it's more boilerplate, the fact you can just see and get what's happening is I don't know. I prefer that. I'd rather have more verbosity
me
than
too.
me trying to figure out what the heck this like meta programming thing is trying to do.
I think it was Go that also was kind of a catalyst for me to not like dry anymore and to like copy pasting more.
Yeah, you could still. I agree. Like dry. I actually blame Ruby on Rails for making dry too much of a gospel. There are times where yes, you should dry up your code, but more often than not, it's pre-optimization. Like you're doing abstractions that you probably shouldn't. You're going to create coupling and things like that. So, but yeah, Go to me is it's the perfect. I don't want to say perfect. Nothing's perfect, but it's the best balance I've found of safety and developer productivity. So you can be very productive and be ensured that the code you're writing is going to work the way you want it to.
I fully agree. I fully agree. I would love to talk more about Go, but also I don't want to make this whole
Talk
episode.
about Go? Yeah, we can move on for sure.
You said you didn't go to college, which I might have known, but I forgot. Um,
Oh,
so,
I went to college, but my degree was not computer science.
yeah,
I
so
was
I
a
also
liberal arts degree.
yeah, so totally, it's like you didn't go to college.
Total. Although I argue, being a software developer, you are more an artist than a scientist, in my opinion.
Develop that because I don't agree. I think
You don't agree?
I don't agree that you're more of an artist. I think that going into software engineering, you would expect more engineering, and you eventually find out that you actually have to care more about like the communicating with people, the social aspect of it, the business aspect of it. But I wouldn't really call that being an artist.
I think it's more of an art than a science. Now, there's definitely science to it. And one of the reasons I have this opinion was it's actually not my opinion. I stole it from Chris Latner, who wrote Swift, and he's a compiler engineer.
Oh,
And he said this is more art than science. So I'm like, it got me thinking, like, wow, if a guy who writes compilers for a living, which I would think is very scientific,
oh yeah.
he says it's more art than science. So I've been doing it a long time, and there are just some things that you do by feel, and there's this is where kind of like the AI coding craze is wrong, I think, because there isn't one way to do things. There's almost never one right way to do things. Now, if you're writing a basic CRUD app or a Tailwind wrapper over OpenAI, like, okay, you can argue there's probably just one way to do that. But when you get into more complicated things like scale, distributed systems, uh, integrating, there's really not one right way, and you have to really take into account, your trade-offs and like, okay, is this the best way to do it? Choosing what data structures you need that will serve you. And AI is certainly helpful at brainstorming those things, but I don't think it can make the decision. So that's where the artistry comes into play, I think. It's like, a painter will never paint the same painting the same way twice. And with a code base, I think it's the same thing. Like
Sure.
there's many different ways to build something and have it work the way you want it to.
You're right, because if you do go and you build something, you write code for a specific whatever it is, and then if you do a rewrite, you will immediately do it different because you have found a lot of ways where you actually weren't exactly right. And sometimes I
Yeah,
think right, you definitely strike a chord for me because with the artist argument, because sometimes I have things which I just in my gut feel like, okay, this is not good or this is good. I can't quite argue logically why, but I just have
right.
something in the back of my mind that tells me, yeah, this is not good.
I have that feeling all the time. And it takes years to sort of develop that intuition. But yeah, there's a lot of code. I see it. I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. Like this feels it's going to be a maintenance nightmare down the road, or it's going to lend itself to a lot of bugs over time. So let's refactor this or make it better. And then when you're writing something from scratch, there's also ways to do it so that okay, I'm not coupling too tightly to something. I'm uh, is this pre-optimization? Like, how much abstraction do I need? There's just a lot of decisions you want to make.
Yeah.
And you never have the full picture. Like a lot of times, you make your best guess, and whoops, it's wrong. But now I can see that it's wrong, and I can go back and fix it later.
Yeah, I recently read. I don't know if you follow Torsten Ball. He wrote a few books about running
No.
interpreters, compilers in Go. He seems pretty cool, and I follow his newsletter. And recently, maybe a week or two ago, he made this post about he joined a new job. I think at Zed or Zod, the new IDE.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I want to try them out someday.
and it appears like I would say they really deeply believe in sacrificial architecture because they do a bunch of like he calls them, I don't remember how he calls them, but he calls them something or they call them some sort of way. But basically what they do is they just rewrite a bunch of stuff relatively often, and it's very common in their company or in their team at least to just, hey, this piece of code, I don't like it anymore, or I think something else, I'm just going to throw it away entirely and rebuild it from scratch. And obviously this, I think it only works for them because they know the domain so well, but it's a very interesting way of coding. And I think to make it work, you have to be able to code fast by knowing the domain and having a tech stack that helps you code fast.
Right. Yeah, that's I've kind of heard. I once had a colleague who, yeah, he to even refactor like a method or function, he would just delete it and start over. Now I don't, I don't go to that extreme, um, but it's that it comes back to the artistry. Like there is no like, do you throw it all away? Do you? Sometimes I think yes, you should throw it all away because it's just completely wrong,
Yeah.
and it may not even be your fault. And but sometimes it's like, no, we can reuse this and or just extend it simply and use it that way. So, but that's it's the artist's decision at the end of the day.
Do you think maybe over time, obviously you're a bit against AI and all that, but do you think maybe at some point in time AI will become or so advanced or the actual code implementation will become so irrelevant that you're going to be more of an architect than actually coding, function implementation, for example?
Yeah, that's it's. I would say I'm against AI. I am against. I kind of wrote a post about this, but I was my complaint was that I used Cursor and really Claude Sonnet 3.5, right, to write some code and implement stuff. And I spent more time debugging subtle errors that it made than if I were to have written it myself.
Yeah,
Um,
that happens.
and the feedback was interesting. They're like, oh, it's a skill issue, because Twitter says that stuff, and it's like, yeah, that's an easy cop out. But people were like, they're basically saying you need to teach the AI better. And I'm like, hold on now. I want to be the builder. I don't want to, it's like, I want to be the painter. I don't want to teach a robot how to paint for me. I want to do the painting. And I would rather the robot help me out. Like that, I think we have that inversed.
Yeah,
Now, it might be a dinosaur and it might be extinct one day, but I want to be the artist that's being assisted. I don't want to be an assistant to the artist. Does that make sense?
yeah, you want the AI to handle more of the architectural stuff, more all the decision making, maybe, or to at least be able to
To help me with that.
provide like actually valuable input and feedback. Not necessarily do it all for you, but and you want to actually type the code yourself. Whereas I think the way it kind of works is you have to be the brains behind it, and you have to let it code. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to let it code because it's maybe something way too small,
Yeah.
or maybe it's something complex where you just know it's going to fuck it up. Um,
Yeah. It's yeah, I mean I don't want to have to do all the typing. I mean I want to work on the interesting problems, like kind of as to use this silly painter analogy. It's like, okay, the AI, I want you to set up the easel, get all my paint ready, and put the canvas on there for me so I could just come in and start going, right?
yeah,
And I think in code, it's like it's great at boilerplate. It's really good at front end. Like I'm a backend developer by nature, and it's amazing to have AI write like, hey, I want to drop down here, and it just there you go. And I don't have to go search and understand like, okay, what's the semantic markup I can use now. I'm not just going to blindly trust it. But front end code is wonderful because you just reload the web page and like, does it look right? Does it look good? Yes, no. Real simple feedback. So I love it for that stuff. And I actually do want it to write the code in that scenario. But I want to be able to use it as a pair or as a rubber duck for architectural decisions. And it's hit or miss there sometimes where it's like, yeah, that's an interesting idea, but no, I'm not going to do that.
yeah, it can be a good rubber duck for the more common problems,
Right.
or for problems where maybe you as obviously a person with over a decade of experience, you might not even need to ask the question or rubber duck the specific problem for you. Whereas
Right.
somebody with 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years of experience, they might want to rubber duck that, or they might want to look into different articles on the subject. So I think, because I've seen this pattern where generally very experienced engineers, they don't like AI, whereas people in the 2 to 6 year range, they like it more.
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. And I don't, right now, I don't have an answer for that.
I
Um,
I don't either, to be honest. I don't know what's going to
yeah. I mean, in 5 years, I don't know. Like, will AI eventually replace us entirely? And, will it replace, writers and filmmakers with all the crazy actors, with all the crazy video generative models now that are coming out? I don't know. It's an interesting It's an interesting question. I mean, there's no way for me to know for sure, and I could make predictions and be right or wrong all day. But and I would love for someone to prove me, have a different opinion here because I am not an expert on LLMs, but I have studied some of their architecture, and my theory is that there is no I in the AI. There is no intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a very sophisticated pattern matching system. It's probability, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely mind blowing that this predictive thing is coming up with like correct code most of the time for the code models, or that it can write perfect English for you with perfect grammar,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, whereas before that was unheard of. So because they're not capable, they're just regurgitating their training data. Like an
Yeah.
example is once on LinkedIn, there was this like product manager guy who's like, hey, AI wrote a Flappy Bird clone, like this zombie Flappy Bird, I think it was. It's like, and I could do this in just like 10 minutes or something. And I responded, I'm like, yeah, but that's because there's like a million Flappy Bird clones in the training data, I bet.
Yeah.
So, and I asked, like, show me how you could make a game that's never existed before. Like, can you do that in 10 minutes? And I don't think I got a response,
Like
but
even
my,
more niche game, or like have
yeah,
it do like a like explain it in a different way where you didn't mention it's Flappy Bird. Where it is very easy to mess the AI up, and you're right. It is entirely statistical. It is entirely based on its data. I don't think it's going to replace us. My prediction is that it will increase productivity. It has already increased
it
productivity.
has. Yeah.
I think
Oh,
it.
I love having an LLM right in my IDE. Like I still will go to Google sometimes, but the habit of just think about it, like you open a tab, you go to Google, there's all these articles, you
Mm,
have to click through them, or Stack Overflow, which Stack Overflow is great. And there have been times I have to go there to find the right answer because the LLM's hallucinating some weird thing.
yeah,
Um, but still, it's less now that I have to do that. And
true.
just, especially when you're using cursor, like you can just see the diff right in line
Yeah.
and look at it and be like, I wonder if that's like, yes, that's what I want, or it's not quite, but it's almost there. So those productivity gains are huge.
Huge. And also I think it lowers the bar a lot. I think it's problematic for juniors. I think it can be very risky.
Yeah,
um
it's tough to be a junior dev right now.
yeah, I think I would still do it, but it would be harder. Yes.
Yeah, it's not to say that they're going to be replaced. It's just AI can make you very lazy, and you're not. You need to struggle. You need to fail to really get good at this craft, right? It's like if something else is just doing the work for you and you don't really understand why it's working, um, there's like AI is going to miss all the nuance. And
Yep.
when you get to a very senior level, it's all about nuance, man.
Yeah, it's all about trade-offs. There's never a right answer. I hate it. I've been learning this over the past year,
Yeah,
and I hate it. But
there's never a silver bullet. Yeah, never a right answer.
yeah, no, it's crazy. I think even though it's not going to replace us, though, that it will skew the supply and demand not in our favor. Yeah.
It could, yeah. I mean, I really don't know because we're just gonna we actually need more data and more time to see what happens. Like
Sure.
it could actually create more jobs because
It
there's more software being built and
could.
there's more crappy software being built because these AI models right now, and especially if you have an inexperienced developer using AI to make something, just think of all the
Yeah.
potential security. Like, are they writing secure code? I doubt it.
Mhm.
And they're not going to realize that they're doing something bad. We're
Yeah.
like, oh, we're going to have SQL injection here, and like now someone just stole all your emails out of your database, for example.
Or like complex, like React can get really messy, for example, and especially when you're talking about state and different hooks and different stuff, it can get really messy. And I remember when I joined this job a few years ago at Tucon, I I always was a generalist, so I was also contributing on the React side of things. And I remember somebody was coding the CSS, and I would always come in to kind of fix up the all the stupid states, not stupid, but the weird, intricate state problems that ended up being created. And I think it's
Mhm.
kind of what you're saying. You're going to have a lot of that where somebody who either understands it or it's just willing to like hit their head on the keyboard until they understand it will be a lot more valuable than the people who just kind of copy pasta the LLM.
Right. I mean, I could see where it skews it, like principal or very senior engineers become more in demand,
Oh yeah,
and unfortunately, the mid and junior level get you
I can.
know get wiped out. I mean, I'm not saying that will happen. I can. There's just a lot of different things that could happen. I think. I don't think we're not close to AGI. I think that's just marketing speak from these companies.
Definitely agreed. Agreed. We're way far from being replaced, but
Yeah,
we can still
I
market certain ways.
my favorite influencer in the AI space is Yan LeCun over at Facebook. Like he just seems very level headed, versus like Sam Altman and some of these other guys.
Yeah, I don't. I never liked following the big guys for some reason. It always.
Yan he's been around. He's been doing AI since the '80s. So yeah, or maybe earlier.
He,
I'd have to look that up, but I just really like his take on things. I think he's chief data science officer at Facebook at Meta.
yeah,
So, and now Meta's the hero. They're releasing all these open source models.
yeah. I think it's a business decision on their
Oh,
part.
sure, it always is.
Yeah, I mean, and with Mark now wearing gold chains, what's that? Like, what's going on? I
I
don't know,
Yeah,
but I don't want to know.
yeah. He,
We
I,
talked,
I can't imagine if you're someone with that amount of influence. I can't imagine that.
yeah, we talked about the biggest hype of this year, but we are yet to talk about the biggest hype of yesteryear, crypto, where you actually worked
Yep.
a moment there.
Yep. For 18 months
I don't want to
or
ask
so.
you how you got in, but I want to ask you why you left.
Well, I've thought about this a lot, and it's kind of several reasons. There's not just one big reason. The first thing is, for whatever reason, I just do not enjoy finance, or I don't working on financial software. And I wish I did, because there's a crap ton of money in finance, and finance makes the world go round. And maybe I should back up and say, I know crypto has this Web3 label, which I actually think is wrong. Web3 is really generative AI. That's the next evolution of the web. Crypto could have been, and I know there's some applications for blockchains that don't have to do with finance, but honestly, if you follow the money, everyone's just doing financial applications pretty much. That's where the money is.
Yeah,
Yeah. DeFi, bridging, transferring assets. USDC is a huge, Circle is a huge company,
yeah.
very successful. And there's just a lot of neat applications of like, hey, I want to send USD like anywhere I want without having to go through some Western Union or whatever, right?
I just
Like
love.
those Right. Crypto makes that easier. I don't say easy, but yeah. So that was the first truth I had to recognize. Is like I'm just not jazzed about finance.
Oh yeah,
um,
I think
and
it's.
crypto, this is my opinion, but crypto is mostly finance.
I
It really should be called Finance 2.0, not Web 3.
I fully agree. I entirely agree. I Yeah,
Yeah,
they tried to make social networks work. They tried to make games work. I see some application for crypto in games, but
that's
not.
a good counter argument. Yeah,
But
but
it's
still, they're about transactions still, right?
yeah, it's
Where you can
social.
have an NFT for a super powerful sword or something, right?
Yeah, Yeah, that's precisely the
Yeah,
thing. That's really the only value that it brings. It's financial. It's not that I want the game to be on chain. It's that I want to be able to sell whatever I earn in the game, and I don't
yeah,
want the game developers to be able to stop me. That's really what it is.
yeah. And I think, I think when you pull back the curtain, that's a finance application.
I can agree. I can actually agree. It's
And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just it didn't really fit me. And then uh, I will say I got disillusioned because in the ecosystem I was in, there was a consensus error that halted this entire blockchain.
oh
And how they fixed it was so this is a proof of stake ecosystem, so there are validators. Here's how they fixed it. They got all the validators in a private Discord channel, and they decided to do a hard fork. So that means they're going to ignore this bad block that had this consensus error, so none of the validators could agree on the state. But they
oh,
got all the validators in a private Discord channel. Discord is not decentralized, right?
nope.
And it also means that, oh, we can contact all the validators, or at least enough to get
Yeah,
consensus.
yeah.
So, like, how decentralized is that if you know how to contact everybody? Um, and what they did was someone created a new, what's called a Genesis file, if you're familiar with that.
Yep, yep.
But they basically exported the state of the whole blockchain into this file. And someone posted a link on Discord. If this is Discord now, like you don't know who these people really are.
There's no
What if
encryption.
someone,
There's
what's
no
that?
there's no encryption either. No safety. Nothing.
No. And all the validators are like, okay, we'll just use this file and start the chain, a new chain with this new file.
And that's
And
fun.
that really got my eye open like, oh my God, none of this is decentralized.
That is fucked up. Yeah. That is.
Yeah. And it was, so it opened my eyes like it's very, very immature software.
It is.
And the fact that people trust hundreds of millions, if not billions, in some of these chains, I'm like, you are crazy.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah.
Or
And
someone.
this was just the ecosystem I was in. There are, as you know, there's so many different ecosystems out there.
Yeah. No. I wouldn't call myself an Ethereum maxi, but I have only ever used Ethereum. I never touched
Okay.
any of the others. Again, I'm not
The
a maxi, but I mean, it's safe. I know it works. I know how many nodes there are out there, how many values there are out there. I can kind of trust Ethereum to work as I expect it to work in a decentralized fashion.
Yeah, ETH, and the fact that ETH got those ETFs or whatever they are approved was a shock, and just further legitimizes, that's how you say that word, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Ethereum. But yeah, I the only crypto I own now is Bitcoin. So you could call me a Bitcoin maxi. I think it is the most decentralized out of all of them. Proof of stake, just
agreed.
it's not as decentralized.
Agreed 100% here as well. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think this is a natural cycle of anybody that joins crypto. You join, you're excited about
Yeah.
the you just love you think about, oh, everything's going to be decentralized and now nobody can block me on social media or like ban me, and nobody can ban me from having a bank account. And it's beautiful because, to be honest, I like the idea of a government or of an institution not blocking my finances. But
Yeah.
you start to learn, and especially when you look at the newer and the smaller projects, you realize that a lot of it is speculation, a lot of it is in
Oh yeah.
the few stealing from the many still, and it can
Yeah. It's at least what I saw, it's still an oligarchy at the end of the day with a lot of backroom deals going on. Um, yeah. Like that Discord channel example. Um, that's just a virtual backroom deal, is all that is.
that's what it is. That's what, and
And
that was
I know they're trying to get the chain back online, so there are good intentions, but
in that case.
uploading that state file, it's like that could have been someone malicious. It's freaking Discord. Like no one knows who that is.
Could have been anything. Could have been anything. And it's very often that bad malicious deals actually get done where people promote
Yeah,
shitty coins and then they rug pull people, or programmers leave backdoors in the code and then they hack themselves anonymously in, like, you know.
that could happen. I mean, there are a lot of good things about crypto. Like most of the software, almost all of it, is open source, which is wonderful. That does pose problems. Like if someone discovers a 0 day, how do you disclose that without like you can't just make a PR?
Immunify, if you have Immunify.
What is this?
So Immunify is this platform for bug bounties. Let me see if I can send you a message.
Oh, so they're kind of solving this. It's like if you make a PR, everyone's going to see that
Exactly.
and know how to exploit it until all the validators can upgrade and all the RPC nodes.
But Immunify, I used to manage the bug bounty program at Tucon, and you get
Okay.
you get some pretty cool submissions for bugs, and people are like the hackers, the white hat hackers are actually very proactive and very smart and like just very altruistic. And obviously, they get paid a lot of money for it. Like the bug bounties in crypto
So they should. Yeah.
are huge, but yeah, they should get paid.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look, there's bridge hacks. What was it? Wormhole, like
Oh yeah.
200 million
Yeah.
stolen or something.
You'd be
Like
surprised that actually.
these those bug finders need to get paid well.
But you'd be surprised that actually in the past, like year to date, the size, like the amount of money hacked, has went down by about 20 something, about 30%, which is great.
That
Uh,
is great. Yeah.
that's amazing, and you can actually see that auditing picked up about 2 years ago, and it started to be like security started to become more of a thing about 2 years ago.
Gotcha. And the other thing I loved, well, let me back up. The third reason why I sort of left was I was doing more SRE and less software development. And I'm good at SRE, but it's and if I were unemployed, I would 100% do it.
Yeah,
But my passion is building applications,
yeah,
not babysitting crappy immature blockchain software that I didn't write.
yeah. With React, I'm good at it. I don't want to do
Same thing. Yep. Yeah.
it.
But the yeah, go ahead. Next
No,
question.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll just say the other thing I love about crypto, because I come from a heavy tech startup background where you get, you know,
Yeah,
equity, not really even equity, you get stock options, right? What I loved about crypto was, oh, you can get token
yeah,
instead of stock options. And token it's transparent. You can't change that supply very easily. Like
yeah.
at least the ecosystem I was in, it had to go through this governance protocol where people would vote on it. So you know if you're getting diluted or not. And it's liquid. Like usually these tokens are going to go on a decentralized exchange at least where you
And you,
can trade and
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So there's no like you don't have to wait for a acquisition event or something. Like it's just there.
Cool.
Now,
It's beautiful to raise money as well.
yeah, I back in the 2019, I witnessed and took part in an IDO. Now I don't know if they're if initial decentralized exchange offering is that what that stands for?
I
But
Nowadays they're called ICOs, initial coin offering.
oh, ICOs are back. Anyway,
I
this
always
was an
heard
IDO. Oh, okay, so the IDO is like they created a token and listed it. This was Solana based, so but it
okay.
was on a I forget Solana's Orca or something, but they're decentralized. They're DEX
Yeah,
anyway. But I just witnessed this, and this company was able to raise a war chest like 50 million, and I might be wrong, but it was significant. And to me, it just opened my eyes like, oh my God, this is so cool.
yeah.
Me as a retail investor, I can like invest. I can partake in this fundraise as just a regular Joe.
Yeah.
Now, there were a lot of companies that threw a lot of money in, but it's no longer restricted to you have to be a VC and wear a cowboy hat and drive a Tesla.
It's like crowdfunding on steroids, I think.
Right. It was a very neat way of crowdfunding, and the token went up like 80% within a few hours, and I really should have sold then.
Well,
because then because then 20 or this wasn't I'm sorry, this was not 2019, not even close. This was I'm getting my years mixed up. This was 2021, the end of
no,
2021.
crazy
So
year.
then the bear market hit and
2021 was such a crazy year. Like I was
yeah,
hearing stories about people raising millions of dollars with just a PDF, like just a little.
yep,
We had was PDF, and you just got $1 million in a week. Crazy
I had a
stuff.
colleague who was brokering because that was the NFT year, right? So he was basically brokering NFTs for people because they were hard to list at that time,
Yeah.
and he made millions doing that.
Oh my god. I wish I was a year earlier in crypto. That would have been a great year.
Yeah, I timed it perfect, Alex. I started right as the bear market hit,
Oh wow.
and I left right as the bear market ended.
I started like about half a year to 8, 9 months before the bear market started at the height of the craziness. And that's what I'm saying. If I would have started just a year before that, because I just didn't know what any of this stuff was. It was all like, okay, what's an NFT?
Yeah,
What's this? What's that? And it was shocking. It was amazing, though. It was beautiful. I hope next year is the same because now I'm here.
I mean, there will be another bear market, and mark my words, I'm going to buy during that. Um, like when Solana reached what, like $8 was the lowest or something.
I don't know.
So yeah, in the bear market, Solana, and I bought some, but man, I should have bought a lot more. uh,
Let's,
but yeah, the when I joined crypto, literally a couple weeks later, um, sorry, my dog is barking.
yeah.
A couple weeks later, the Terra Luna crash
That was
happened.
crazy.
Yeah,
Like, you remember, I don't know if you remember when USDT depegged, there were some crazy things happening back then.
yeah. So much for stable coins.
No, well, yeah,
Ain't
crypto.
nothing stable in cryptocurrency. That is, if there's one thing someone watching this takes away, that's what you should take away.
Yeah, no, crypto is really crazy, and I think stable. Yeah, you're right. Stable is not the way to describe it all at all. But I want to also talk about indie hacking and your plans for your next domain because people will find out in the intro how I actually got to know you, being a huge fan and user
Awesome.
your next domain. But like, how much time do you have left? Actually,
I've got another 20, 30 minutes. Actually, let
okay,
me
good, good,
let me not lie to you. Yep, I'm right.
cool. So obviously, you got into indie hacking with your next domain, which is, I honestly believe, a genuinely awesome tool, which you're not charging for, which I still don't understand why. I've been telling you this for months
I
now.
know. I know. It's classic sin of indie hackers. No, I am working. First of all, thank you so much. Your praise is, yeah, really hits me in the feels. Thank you. It's been a really fun project, and yeah, I am working on a premium feature that I will charge for.
Finally,
Yeah,
can you tell me what it is?
yeah. It actually came from an idea from my email list. So the problem is you bid on an auction, and if you're me, and not just me, but other people have this problem, you forget about it. And typically you'll get an email saying, hey, you've been outbid. Uh, but who checks their email all the time? Like I don't. So I'll see that email and it's hours after the auction ended. So the idea is you can watch an auction and just get a notification, a text message 15 minutes, maybe that's configurable, but let's say 15 minutes before it expires. So you know, oh, this thing's about to end. If I want to, I need to jump on and go start bidding higher.
It would be useful if the notification also contained the current price,
Right, totally.
so I
It
know
will.
if I still want to buy
Yep.
that or not. But yeah, how are you doing with notifications though?
How am I going to do the notifications?
Yeah.
Probably through Amazon SNS because they have a SMS feature. Now
Okay.
I could use Twilio. I only know of Twilio and Amazon as the two top market leaders for sending text messages. But I have the DevOps skills, so I'm going to go the cheaper route and use
Yeah.
Amazon. Yeah,
Yeah. Just go for Amazon. No need to
yeah.
add extra abstraction
I
on top.
mean, I hate how Amazon you have to wire up like 90 things to get something to work, but I'm used to. I use Terraform. I'm an expert there, so I'm going to spend my. I could probably get something out quicker with Twilio, but I'm going to go with Amazon and go the cheaper route, even
Yeah.
though if it takes me a couple days to get it working,
Couple days isn't that bad, and
not that bad.
I think you can rely more on Amazon. It's not perfect, but I kind of trust Amazon.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're once you get it working, like their stuff is rock solid.
Yeah, yeah,
I just hate the whole. I hate IAM. I hate you can't just use a service. You have to like wire up so much stuff to get it to work.
yeah, yeah.
Terraform makes that easier though, by the way, if you don't know it.
I have heard about it. I've never tried it. I'm not a huge like we use AWS mostly to just spin up VMs, and then we just do our stuff with Linux on it, and we just don't actually interact a lot with
Okay.
the
Yeah.
native AWS stuff. It's actually cheaper for like for databases. It's cheaper.
Oh, for sure.
It's cheaper for some stuff, yeah. But um, so I think I. How did you even come up with the idea for your next domain? And yeah, but yeah, just ask.
Yeah. So there's this guy on Twitter, Peter Skew, Searchbound,
Yes.
and I got uh, not connected with him, but I discovered him through the small bets community. If you figured that,
I'm in.
yeah. So I went to one of the small bets talks, which I don't think they're doing anymore because their attendance just for some reason dropped off big time. But just seeing Peter talk about, he calls it domain driven development, which
Yeah.
for you and I means a different thing, right? But he means domain name driven development, where he will find a premium domain and then go build a business off it. And I don't know why, but I just got like hooked with that idea. And
I
then it
love.
got me more into the domain investor community. And domain names it's similar to crypto where it's a digital asset.
Yeah.
So domain names actually would be a great fit for blockchain.
They
But the
try.
big players, GoDaddy, they're not going to give that up.
They tried. They actually tried it with some. There was this thing named name something name whatever. They did try it. It never actually got any sort of big.
Someday.
Maybe
But it'd
some.
be great. It'd be great to not have a third party in charge of those.
It would.
But the third parties that are in charge, they will not give that up easily.
It's a big business. I mean, some
Huge.
things
Yeah.
go for a lot of money.
I know there are Web3 domains, but I don't really count those. Like people still want .com is still the king.
Yeah.
Like .com's the king. Everything else is a peasant, honestly.
Mm,
.ai is trending. Uh, and that may stick around, but we'll see.
it's trending now, but is it going to trend in 5 years? I don't think so. Just like XYZ
Yeah,
trended in crypto and now it's gone. No,
right.
.com is it. .com is where it's at.
And there's still some value with .io, .co, but it's your next domain focuses mostly on .com.
I think you can make other domains work, but I think you should always aim for .com if you can.
Right. And that's like Peter Skew, he only goes after .coms. And I just sort of adopted that philosophy. I think there's some value in one word dot whatever. Like you can find one word, one short word especially, like there's some value there.
Yeah, definitely. I don't have any of those like one word. I do have some things like
I don't
travel to
either.
Slovakia or some stuff like that, which I still want to use. One problem that I've kind of came around to with the domains that I've accumulated, because I have a few dozen now, and I know that some of them I will someday, when I find time, build something on them. But some of them I've kind of realized, I'm probably not going to do this. It will be fair to sell
Oh
it.
yeah.
And how
That's it's
do
part of the
you,
cycle, man.
yeah, it's an I have a video on it. It's definitely an addiction. But how do you sell them? Because I tried selling them on GoDaddy, and it just makes it hard. I have to click on a million things, and I have to validate a million things, and it's not easy to sell them. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So that is a common problem I hear is like, hey, I have these extra domains laying around and I don't want to just let them expire. I want to actually at least recoup my money back, right?
Yes, you get something.
Um, there's actually have a guy a call with him later this week. His name's Harrison. Oh, I can't remember his last name, but he's built stakeweb.com, which I don't know if he's trying to sell them or just you're trying to get parked money for your domain names. With GoDaddy, there used to be two players that they both bought, Dan.com and Afternic, and they're killing Dan because they both sort of do the same thing.
Hmm.
So that's where my experience even I come into a knowledge wall. The way I want to sell domains, and once I get your next domain to like an autopilot mode, but I have a ways to go before that happens. Once I do that, though, I want to explore cold outreach, probably cold emails, maybe cold LinkedIn DMs to say like, "Hey, I have this .com domain that I think would be really good for your business. Are you interested in buying it?" Versus inbound of them just trying to discover you. I have had one or two inbound emails, but they just ghost me. Yeah.
I think, especially since you've already gone down this path of domain stuff, you probably can build something around the idea of facilitating, selling of domains. It might be more of a manual business rather than a SaaS, but I think there might be something for you to pursue in that area.
With your next domain, I could, now this is a bad word, I could explore making it a marketplace where you can pay to like for like sponsored listings on my search results. And so I just don't like two-sided marketplaces, but I think those are very bad for indie hackers. And that's not Rob Walling. He's not a fan of those either. But I don't know if it's an avenue to revenue, then I may need to explore it. I don't I don't know if I get quite enough traffic yet. Maybe I do, and I need to explore like, hey, for $25, you
How
can
many
list your domain for sale for a month.
how many users do you have right now?
On my email list, I have 450 ish, and I've actually had 40 users sign up for a free account.
Okay. What if you just did like a brokerage business for domains?
I could. I don't know if I want to get into that.
You like obviously what we're both gonna forever likely try to do is stuff where you build a software product and that ends up making you money instead of doing
Yeah, that's always been my angle too. But
but
like you said, there's just not enough time in the day.
that too. But if you did have the time, I think brokering, even though it's a bit of an identity change, it might be worth looking into.
It's definitely worth looking into. I have like zero experience there, and I'm trying to leverage my strengths because I'm really focused on the problem with the domain industry is like it's old and it's crufty, and you have to go to all these different like legacy looking sites to find domains for sale. And my grand vision is this right now. Now it could change, but I'm going to aggregate all the domain auctions, including buy it nows, from all these like crappy websites with crappy UI UX and bring them to one spot and try to curate and surface the good deals for you. And even longer term than that, like, wouldn't it be great to have one place to do your research?
Oh
Because
yeah,
right now there's just tools all over the place where it's like, I need to go here to find backlinks and keyword data and
true,
like the
true.
extensions taken. Like, what if there's one spot where you could do all that and that you would have to pay for? And that's kind of my grand vision, to just give you all these. Even GoDaddy has free tools for this, but like let you do this research in one spot so that you can make a determination: is this going to be a good investment or not for me?
Kind of like, well, not a CRM, that's a bad word, but kind of like a one tool for domain investors, domain dealers, domain brokers, domain people. What if
Right.
you try to partner with people like Peter? What if you like actually DM Peter, hey, I have this thing, blah blah blah. Let's try to figure out a way to work together.
Yeah. Well, I'm the Stake Web creator. Like I have a call with him later, so, and maybe there's a potential partnership there, because he's not doing what I'm doing at all. He's more like, hey, you have these domain names just sitting around. Let's put them to use. And how to put them to use, I'm not exactly sure. But I'm like, yeah, let's. And I know Kat from Build the Keyword. I probably need to reach out to her. So, there. I used to do co-working sessions with Kat. She's a great person and an awesome no-code indie hacker. Uh, but with buildthekeyword.com, they're trying to find high traffic, low competition keywords that you can build something off of. So I could use help here. I'm like, there's a partnership there somewhere with the domain names, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't quite figured it out in my head.
I think that's a big part of what you should be working on going forward. Just trying to go more into the business side and trying to figure out. I don't really know exactly how you're gonna do it, but that's the
I don't
general.
either.
I hope you do it because I really wanna. I've told you this before, but if you ever think about closing down your next domain, and I have money on me, I'm buying it. I'm not letting that thing go down.
No, I've had way too much positive signal to close it down now. Way too much. It's been, yeah, it's passed the stranger test a whole bunch of times. Um, and it's fun. It still continues to be fun. That's probably when I would consider. I would only shut it down if I stopped having fun. Um, and I actually have a call, I think tomorrow. Someone from some directory. Now this is probably a scam, but they're interested in acquiring it.
Okay, okay.
But they set up a call with me, so I'm like, okay, I'll talk to you. I don't. I really don't want to sell it, but my philosophy with indie hacking is your businesses, their businesses, they are not your babies. If someone wants to give you money, you
Yeah,
listen.
yeah, 100%. I think the price has to be really good. I think the chances of you getting a good price
Yeah.
is not easy,
Oh,
especially
very low.
because you have to factor in all the time that you've spent on this thing as a very
Right.
senior engineer with all the product decisions that you've made. And I think, yeah, like I think I've heard about acquisitions where the project isn't making any money, but simply because it would take the acquirer a lot of resources to rebuild what you've done, they're willing to give you a premium just so they don't have to go through
Yeah.
the effort. And I think an acquisition can make sense.
It
Honestly,
totally could. I will always listen to an acquisition talk.
I
And
keep
it
my
just gives me experience too. Like the more of these talks you go to, because
yeah.
I'm very inexperienced with someone wanting to buy something I made. So yeah, but it could be a scam. They could not even show up. Like my expectations are in the gutter.
I like that. Keep your options open and expectations in the gutter.
Yeah. And a lot of times I've read from others that they want, they're really after your IP, your intellectual property, like they're trying to figure out how you do stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to I've already had people ask like, "Hey, how do you do this?" I'm like, "Well, that's IP. It's private IP, so I
Yeah.
can't tell you."
Fair enough. I was gonna ask you like about technical challenges you had building it, but
I could talk. Yeah, I could talk about those
what's
because it's
the biggest or the most annoying technical challenge you had to deal with?
stale data, and it's I'm really in sort of big data territory because there's millions of domains that go for auction every day, and the biggest challenge is actually enriching it. Like people have said, "Hey, can you show backlink data? Can you show
I said that.
DR?" Yeah, it all the time. Can you show domain authority? And it's like I would love to, but getting that data is insanely expensive.
Yeah.
Um,
Hrefs API is expensive.
yeah, and there's a lot of APIs out there. It really got me thinking of a side of another product related to that. Like, and this is insanity, by the way. So talk me out of it. But what if I write my own API so I'm crawling and finding backlinks and calculating some sort of domain authority myself? Now I'm crazy enough that I know I could build it. Um,
I think
but
the
that's just to crawl the entire internet is insane.
yeah, that's what I'm going into. We have the Dixtrack, the job I have right now. We index the blockchain. It's a similar problem to indexing the web, only
Yep.
the blockchain. And it's not that the code is impossible to write. I don't think you would have it would take you time. I think the
It
core
would take
part
time.
is just that you need a lot of infra that is going to become
Yeah.
expensive. Even once you go on prem, it's still going to be expensive. And
It'll be expensive. I think there are hacks to, like, I probably won't keep historical data, just up to date data. Or I may archive historical data to like S3 and then, or Glacier. So it's like super cheap to store all that. Um, but yeah, it's just something I've thought about because it's so like I cannot, it would be prohibitively expensive for me to get that data. Like many hundreds of, and they don't, and they, all these stupid, well, not all of them, but Ahrefs, Majestic, they have limits on what you can get. So, they have a credit based system.
yeah,
And the way I would build it, I'm like, you'd have rate limits, but you'd have infinite credits. Like there'd be no credits. There would just be rate limits.
I think it's also problematic to build this because
It would be hard.
it would be it's the thing. It's not that it's impossible. It's definitely not impossible. Is that you have to sustain all this amount of work and all this
Mm-hmm.
cost, which is expensive when you really think about your time and the actual infra, and you don't actually know if it's going to make a big difference in your top line in your revenue.
Yeah, but this would be a spin-off product. So I would charge, I could charge 50, maybe $100 a month, and it would be a B2B play. So marketing agencies, but there's just too much research I need to do. Like who just wants backlink and domain authority data? Like maybe, okay, maybe they probably want that and all this other stuff, keyword tracking, which I really don't want to do that either.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's risky. I think it's a risky. I
but
think that you have other easier paths to revenue, which
yeah,
you pursue first before you go into this. I think
oh, 100%.
you shouldn't finance this, whether with your time or with the money for info. You shouldn't finance it out of your pocket, so to say.
But that's why I'm crazy because I know I have the infrastructure skills and the big data. Like I know I could do it, and I could probably keep it fairly cheap as far as the infra is concerned, especially if I don't keep historical data.
Yeah, I
I
guess
still need to do more research, like how much, are we talking like terabytes of data, petabytes, exabytes? Like that's a different story.
it's also the amount of just processing power you need because I honestly believe SSD is cheap. Storage is cheap.
Storage is pretty cheap. Yeah.
That's not going to be the core issue. I think just the amount of CPU you're going to need, the amount of
I
scrapers
mean,
all the time.
the scrapers I'd probably write in, I might write in Rust because
Oh, wow.
that's a use case where Rust is insanely efficient um, and fast. Go is extremely efficient and fast. Rust takes it to that next level, though.
I was gonna say when we were talking earlier about Go is the thing I like about it is that it's default fast. It might not be as fast as Rust could be, but to get Rust to that level, you have to put in extra work. Go is by default still pretty
Oh yeah,
fast, and I'd rather do the 80/20 on this one most of the time.
totally. It's very fast. It's usually as fast as you need most of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And compared to like Python, Ruby,
Oh,
JavaScript, like it's very fast.
yeah,
Like your next domain runs off one VPS. That's it.
yeah. Nice.
All the data processing, everything,
I
one
remember you
VPS.
used to spend
No
something like
microservices.
$20 a month or something.
Yeah, my data warehouse costs have gone up some, but yeah, the VPS is like because I have backups and a floating IP, and my total cost is like $10.
My God. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not gonna be the same for indexing the web.
no, no, it would. I'd actually probably use Kubernetes for that.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I just Kubernetes is second nature to me.
I never actually tried it. I'm still a Docker guy. I like Docker. Docker Swarm is nice. I don't want to go much farther than this right now.
Yeah, yeah. That's anyway. That's we on a tangent there, but yeah. So back to your next domain. I mean, I definitely wouldn't write. I wouldn't scrape the entire internet just to. It would definitely be a spin-off product that I would charge for.
Yeah, yeah.
But finding that backlink and keyword data, because my idea is that okay, you pay a premium subscription, or you pay you pay a subscription for a premium feature. Where this is part of the research, where now, like on demand, you can go find this stuff. So then I will use
Oh,
these expensive APIs,
okay,
and
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, on demand would be a good start. I think.
that's what I'm thinking too. Because just there's like millions of domain name entries, and sure, I could filter out the ones I know will be crappy, but still, just the amount of domains that I would need to enrich, it would just cost me way too much.
On demand, just store whatever actually got requested,
I
so
would
you
store
can
it.
do it again to
Yeah,
more people. And I think
totally.
that's a good start. I think that's a good start. Yeah.
So it's kind of that bigger vision of like a one-stop shop for researching domain names.
I like
Um,
the vision. I like the vision. I just really
it could
want.
change though.
I really want to stress it for you to start making money ASAP because
I know.
the
Yeah.
vision is great, but I want you to stay motivated and I want it to make sense for you to keep on working towards the vision because this vision is not going to happen this year.
No,
It's
it's a
not.
big vision.
It's a
Yeah.
big vision, so it has to. You have to. The vision has to be at the top of your mind as well, but also the next step and how you can make this sustainable. Hopefully by the end of the year, or at least in time for spring.
Yeah. It's and it's a free product, but I am making a little bit of money through because when you buy a domain through me,
Oh,
it's an affiliate link, so I get a with GoDaddy I think it's like 10%. Um, but I haven't made. No one's bought like a $10,000 domain yet. That would be really nice. But
Uh,
my your next domain tries to give you. It's really for domain investors. Like they're trying to find hidden gems where okay, I can buy this low and sell it much higher later.
yeah,
That's really my goal right now.
I think it's a good goal. I think it's a good vision. I think you've definitely built something that is amazingly valuable,
Oh,
but
thank you so much, Alex.
you're definitely falling
It's fun.
into the builder and not the seller archetype, so to say,
Totally.
which I'm obviously at fault as well. But I'm trying to yell at you. Maybe you yell at me, and maybe we figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of the year, I think for sure I'm going to have that text message feature,
Well,
and because yes, I need. I can't just rely on affiliate income. I would have to drive so much traffic to make that work.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, there's definitely subscription there that I could do,
I
and I
think so.
think by the end of the year I will have one,
I think so. I
and
think
that'll be when the rubber hits the road, and we'll see how it works.
that's the real test of
That's a real test. Yeah.
that's the real test. Let's wrap this
Or
up.
hell, maybe this guy tomorrow offers me a
A
chunk of
bajillion
money, and
dollars.
yeah, yeah. Well, no, that's not gonna
How,
happen.
how much would you sell it for? How much would you sell it for? Like, what would be a number? You've already spent like half a year working on this. Um, how
Well,
much?
yeah, I honestly don't. I don't know. Um,
Say something high where
yeah,
you okay. No, I'm gonna say numbers, and I'm gonna try to say some numbers where you just couldn't say no to, and you tell me a no or a maybe. Let's call it a maybe, not a yes.
it's hard though because I'm still even though with this affiliate income, like it's still technically pre-revenue. So once you have that MRR, the golden goose, then it's easier to come up with numbers. That's why it's hard.
It's easier, but I think it's problematic. Do you have you watched the Social Network? I think it was, and there's this specific scene where the VC guy or whoever tells the guy, no, you don't want revenue because that's when they can evaluate it based on it. But if you don't have revenue, you actually have a higher
Oh,
because I actually think there is some
that's
truth.
right.
I think there is some
There's some
truth.
truth to that. I mean, if someone offered like a million, I'd be like, yes, where do I
Yeah,
sign?
that's an obvious one. But
500K, yes, where do I sign?
would you do it for 50K? I'm
No.
thinking no. I was expecting that. So now this is really the interesting nuanced range of 100 to 500 where you I don't know what
100, 500 is tough. Yeah, I'd have to think about it.
500 is an easy yes, 50 is an easy no, but what about 150?
Think about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's an interesting amount of money. It's a sizable chunk. Like I don't know what sort of job you have and I'm not going to ask, but there are software engineers who this is what they make in a year. There are, software engineers who make a lot more, but
Right.
150
Because
is
you have to
still,
think about taxes and all that stuff.
oh yeah, there's that too.
Yeah.
Um, 150 may be still a no, but I think 300 is
I'm
definitely,
leaning toward 300 is interesting. Um, yeah, it's it just gives me a lot to think about. Like, okay, so I don't have this project anymore. Now what do I do?
there's that as well.
Yeah.
There's that as well. Hey,
And I have ideas. Like I still want to write this book about distributed systems, and that I've totally put on the back burner now because I'm just focused on your next domain right now.
I think you could find things to do the book about distributed systems. You can always write a book about like data indexing, which you're obviously good at. You can always start a consulting shop around these things.
Right.
Um, but definitely building a product is more interesting and more fun.
I mean, it'd be nice. here's a better answer. The acquisition cost would have to be enough, and I still don't know what this number would be, where I could have like, if I went part time with my current job and I'd still have like 2 or 3 years of runway would be
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Because being a side hustler, your main problem is time. You just don't have a lot of it. So being able to claw back some time, you're just gonna be able to move a lot faster.
True. 100%. I feel that point so much right now.
Yeah, and I'm just now like, I'm at the point where you just have to be patient with yourself, because even doing something like I redesigned the layout of the homepage based on feedback from my users, and they were right. And I'm like, oh yeah, this shouldn't be too bad. It took me a week, which
Yeah.
is a long time. That's because I'm side hustling. Like you have to steal time here and there throughout the day to do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you just have to be extremely patient with yourself. And I have a family. I'm not going to sacrifice. I'll sacrifice some time, but not a lot of time with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I'm very conscious of, I don't want to burn myself out. So, hey, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to work today. I'm going to go play golf or hang out with my kids or whatever.
It's,
Um,
it's a tough
and I'm
balance.
fine with that.
It's a
Yeah.
very tough balance, especially once you have kids. It's a very tough balance.
It's tough, but it forces you to focus. Although, to your point, I'm contradicting myself because I need to be focused on revenue.
See?
Yeah.
uh,
And I feel that. I feel that pressure because I've been doing this indie hacker stuff a little over a year now. And it's like, okay, I've proven I can grow a following on Twitter. Have I made any money from that? No. I've proven that I can build a product that gets some traction and some praise, which is great. But now it's like, okay, this year needs to be focused on like there needs to be money coming into the bank.
Honestly, if push comes to shove, what I do in your place is just go full on consulting for data and indexing solutions. And I would probably make some pretty decent money doing
Interesting. Yeah. I'm exploring that too. I'm kind of split brain too much. I've been doing a lot of networking, exploring like fractional type roles, because that is a way to basically make a full-time income with part-time hours.
it. Yeah, yeah. It's a tough and very
But it's
balance.
tough. It's tough though. Like I'm still data indexing. I'm glad you said that. That's because I'm still trying to find that problem fit where I'd rather it be a productized service, right?
I think you
Uh,
can definitely find something in the area of data, especially with data being so big now.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
big, too big,
too big.
especially
Well,
if you want to crawl the entire internet.
especially so. Especially so.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up. I have taken more than an hour of your time.
No, this has been great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you too for coming on. This was really cool, and we talked about a lot of topics. And I'm gonna, as you know, have a lot of work editing this. And actually,
Yeah.
it's not free anymore now. It's 4 interviews recorded this week.
Oh my gosh. So take your time.
Yeah, no,
I know editing is a lot of work.
I'm gonna do a first in, first out. So you're first in.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thank you too. Hey, thanks for watching the interview with David. I think it was really cool. I had fun and I learned a few new things and explored a few new ideas with myself. I hope you did as well. And what I really wanted to say is that, if you liked it, maybe check out some of my other stuff. You're going to find other information about me and all my other interviews, obviously on my YouTube channel, but also on my brand new personal website, alexlaser.dev. And there is one thing which I really wanted to pitch to you, because this is also a big part of why I'm trying to be more of a public face, and that is Lead Software, which is a Web3 consulting shop. And yeah, where we basically build Web3 stuff and we do it for hire. We have a nice team. There's 3 of us right now. We do a great job. You can look at the website. Please check it out. Thanks.